So I've got the record on. This is Appreciate Your Life. How's that possible? We can say that our practice is to close the gap between what we think our life is and our actual life as the subtle mind of nirvana. Or more to the point, how can we realize that there is really no gap to begin with? I always think when he talks about the gap and what that gap might be, it reminds me when you can go to a subway or you get on a train and someone will say, mind the gap. And they're talking about that space between the train and the platform. And when you really think about it in a Zen way, is that the train wouldn't exist without a platform for people to get on it. And the platform would have no use whatsoever without the train. And really that's what he's saying, is that the gap between what we think our life is and our actual life, there is no gap. One can't exist without the other. And that's really an absolute and relative type of way of looking at things. Do not be dualistic. Truly be one with your life as the subtle mind or nirvana. That is what subtle means. Something is subtle not because it is hidden, nor because it is elusive, but because it's right here. We don't see it precisely because it is right in front of us. In fact, we are living it. When we live it, we don't think about it. The minute we think about it, we are functioning in the dualistic state and don't see what our life is. Why is this so difficult to do? Pin down what that difficulty is and where it comes up. Most of us know that I is something somehow blocking us. I am the one who does not see my life as the subtle mind or nirvana. I am the one who has not experienced life as a treasure. In a way, the I is the ego, the thing that says somehow that I am separate from the rest of the world and I am the center of the universe. What is this I that is blocking this realization? Is it my dualistic functioning? There is nothing wrong with duality itself. That is how our mind functions. But as long as we remain in the confinement of duality, we are swayed by such opposing values as right and wrong, good and bad. These are only temporary aspects. Something appears sometimes to be good or bad or right or wrong or long or short or big or small. But what is it overall? The same thing with our life. We must see what it is beyond the duality. Our life literally comes down to right now. How? Now. Here. What is it? One understanding of life and death is that the life and death of the instant. According to Dogen Zenji, the founder of the Japanese Soto Zen, Shakyamuni Buddha said that in 24 hours, our life is born and dying, rising and falling. 6,400,099,980 times. That's a lot. So in 1 second, our life is born and dies around 70,000 times. Our conscious mind can't even imagine such an occurrence. What kind of life is this? We usually think of our life as 50 years or 60 years, maybe the most around 100. I read once that there is about 3,300 people who are more than 100 years old. The oldest being 112 years. What are people doing living such long lives? That's a good question. Dogen Zenji says that living a long life without awareness is almost a crime. On the contrary, he emphasized that even if you live one day with a clear understanding of what life is, the value of that one day will equal to many years of living without awareness. We are also concerned with how long we live. We feel that living 80, 90, or 100 years is a wonderful life. Maybe so. But wonderful compared with what? Compared with those who die young? Kind of the catalyst of me doing this talk today is that we recently, a couple weeks ago, we lost one of our son-in-laws. He was fairly young. He was in his 40s, and it's our kids that live in Kansas. And he just went to sleep, took a nap, and asked his kids to wake him up at a certain time, and he just never woke up. And it was a big shock. And so when things like that happen, you kind of question, am I being grateful when I wake up every morning? Am I appreciating this life as it is? And if not, what can I do that might change that? And so that was kind of what brought me to give this talk today, is that very question, what can I do to be here and be present? We must see our life clearly, the existence of this life at this very moment. What is it? Being born and dying 70,000 times at this very moment. What is it? Is such a life different for a man, a woman, a young person, or an old person, a human being, other beings? Is such a life dualistic? Is it relative or absolute? All of our usual considerations and understanding about what our life is makes no sense if we're born and dying 70,000 times in an instant. Dogen Zenji says that because our life is this, we attain realization. We do not practice in order to attain realization. In fact, when we practice, we do not need to expect anything. Why not? Because everything is already here. Our life is this wisdom. Our practice is this realization. When we see our life beyond duality, beyond thinking and non-thinking, then everything is already no other than the treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana. When we think in dualistic terms, our life is restricted. I am, you are, this is good, this is bad. At the same time, our life has no boundary. Since we are born and die in each moment, in each instant, our life is not limited by time and space. Everything is right here, right now. So our life is limited when we think dualistically, and at the same time, it is not limited. It does not matter whether you are a man or a woman, young or old, a monk, a layperson. The treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of nirvana is anybody, everybody. All of us have abundant opportunities to experience our life in this way at this very moment. How can we realize the supreme way of manifesting as our life? For whether we realize it or not, being born and dying, renewing our life thousands of times per second, we are always living this unsurpassable life, just as we are. But how do we realize this? Just be, just do. When we live with this awareness, we realize that there is no division between this life and the supreme way, no division between this life and the subtle mind of Dharma. We realize the life has no division. There's no gap. This is our life. This is our practice also. So if your practice is breathing, just be with that breathing. If your practice is shikantaza, or just sitting, then just sit. If your practice is koan, be the koan. Are you truly practicing in this way? If you're doing shikantaza based on a certain understanding or expectation, your practice is not shikantaza. If you're practicing with the koan intellectually, or as a riddle to solve, you are not doing koan practice. Why not? Because duality is still involved. Because division is still involved. How can you experience and confirm your life as the treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of Nirvana? You are already so. Start, at least, with believing that your life is this. Have faith in this. Then experience that life as your very own. When you do this right here, right there, your life is prajna paramita, wisdom itself. Prajna is the wisdom of non-duality. No I, you, good, bad. It is the functioning of this moment, of what happens here and now. Paramita means to reach the other shore. What other shore? If everything is right here and now, what other shore exists? Some people think that the other shore is nirvana, the way we think things should be, the way we wish our life to be. But nirvana is already here. Having reached the other shore, we confirm that this life right now is nirvana. This life is that most precious treasure, the unsurpassable way, the way of true realization. Shakyamuni himself lived this life. What is the difference between his life and our life? At the moment of his great enlightenment, Shakyamuni Buddha said, "How miraculous! All beings have the wisdom and virtue of the Tathagata Buddha." Shakyamuni's Buddha's confirmation of who we are, of what our life is, and of how to live is our koan. We must live it and practice it. Do you understand this? Each of us has to take care of this treasury of the true Dharma I and the subtle mind of Nirvana. We must do it. One day is long enough. One sitting period is long enough. Even 1 second is long enough. And vice versa. A week, 10 years, 50 years, or 100 years may not be long enough. In order to experience yourself in this way, you do not need to wait for any moment. In fact, do not wait. I encourage you, please enjoy this wonderful life together. Appreciate the world of just this. There is nothing extra. Genuinely appreciate your life as the most precious treasure and take good care of it. So after that, my thoughts were, how can we appreciate our lives using, our practice. Zen, can offer a practical and experiential approach to life that can help us appreciate the present moment and find deeper meaning in our lives. One way of doing that is practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a central part of Zen. By focusing our attention on the present moment, we can become more aware of our thoughts and our feelings and our experiences. This can help us appreciate the small things in life and find joy in everyday activities. And then something that really helps me is embracing impermanence. According to Buddhism, everything in life is impermanent, including our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences. By accepting impermanence, we can appreciate the present moment and let go of attachment to things that are transient. That's what he was talking about, living and dying in 70,000 times in a second. It really is, whatever's happening will fade, and what hasn't been here will come. And it's this feeling of waves. It's this cycle of come and go, and it's just not grasping that thing. It's like grasping the ocean and trying to take it home. You can't. It just slips through your fingers. And then I believe a big part of my practice is cultivating gratitude. Part of the four immeasurables, which are loving kindness, compassion, equanimity, and appreciative joy, which is a big part of my practice, or at least I try to make it a big part of my practice. And as part of that, appreciative joy is feeling happy for others. But I also kind of go beyond that, because there is no difference between others and myself. So it's also feeling happy for myself and being and cultivating that gratitude, whatever might be happening. Gratitude is an important aspect of Zen. By cultivating a sense of gratitude for the people, experiences, and things in our lives, we can find joy and fulfillment in the present moment. And then another thing that I think helps is simplifying life. Life is complicated enough sometimes. So Zen emphasizes a simplicity and a minimalism, instead of grasping and accumulating things. I certainly have too many things. And sometimes I just, we do a garage sale, or we take a big bag of clothes down to the shelter or something like that, and just let these things go. And it is a feeling of kind of a relief. So by simplifying our lives, we reduce stress and distractions and focus on what really is important. And then finally is practicing compassion. And it's just not local, who's in my house or who might be in our neighborhood. But, compassion is a core virtue of Buddhism. By practicing compassion to ourselves and others, we have a connection and appreciation for the interdependence of everything. So that was my thoughts on today's talk. And I would love to hear everyone and what your thoughts on it, and what might you do in your practice, in your life, to brings appreciation, or just comment on what was read. So thank you very much. Yes, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, great talk. I really appreciate it. One question I have for you is, I attempt to be in the moment and be mindful as much as I can, and I slip away into other abstract thoughts so quickly. It just seems like that's that's the process. Is I'm trying to have that appreciation and all those, things that you mentioned, the four measurables in the present moment, but it constantly goes, my thoughts take me off somewhere else. And I just have to bring myself back or realize, oh, I'm thinking about this and that again. Any thoughts on, that process? It seems like for me, that's just what I'm doing.
Well, that really is a koan, what is this and how can I appreciate it? We all slip. I think that, the ego always wants to bring us back to what about me? What about what's going on with me? What about going on that? And it's kind of a distraction. And it's really what our whole practice is, especially the breath, practice of following the breath, is that it brings us back. I find myself wandering off thinking about, well, like today I was wandering off thinking about my talk while I was meditating. And then it was just like,
Yeah.
here I am. There I go. It's like there was somebody made a great analogy. It's like going to Union Station and just sitting on the bench and you're bringing yourself in the present moment. And then all of a sudden you find yourself on a bus going to Chicago, and you're going, I didn't want to go to Chicago. And then you come back to the station and you sit, and then you find yourself, and then slowly you find yourself not getting on that bus, or at least a shorter distance. But that really is our whole practice, though, is I think what's key and what you said is that you're being aware of it. Because I think so many people, sleepwalk, and they just they allow their minds to take them wherever it might take them, and it's really half the battle is just being aware of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for your talks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yes, and as I'm getting a little bit older, I kind of appreciate the message a lot more, because I remember in my 20s, my 30s, and even my 40s, I thought like, well, I got plenty of time to do everything. And now I'm looking at, gosh, I'll probably be retired from work in like 7 years or less. And I was thinking, actually, I enjoy my work. Actually, at sometimes with my mind doesn't get in the way too bad. And so, like, if I could just find some joy in that. And yeah, like I had some medical problems a few years ago, like, as you remember, that, man, I'm just really happy to even be back at work and be functioning and stuff. So, yeah, the big message it took for me is, just don't take life for granted, because it, goes by just like that.
It really is fleeting. I'm almost coming up on 63, and it's like, well, I have more in than I have out.
Right.
It's like, it's that, the arrow of time has traveled pretty far. And so you think, well, how much do I really have? And should I be focusing on that? Do I really need to focus on what I have? Well, for me, I said that, the answer to that question is no, because then I'm always worried about not completing what I want instead of really concentrating on where I'm at. But like I said, when I was younger, I look back and how much time I could have done this. Is that whole should have, don't should have yourself. Yeah, it really, as we age in our lives, we see the kind of the end game down here, where, like, where am I at here, and it's just like, so that, I think that comes back to his question, what is this? What is my life? And how am I going to spend that? Am I going to spend that worrying about the end game, or just really stay in the game, be in the moment?
Right. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you for the wonderful Dharma talk. I like the story that you shared about, just waking up and being grateful for even just waking up. And that spoke to me, along with the talk where he was talking about don't just study the koan, become the koan. Don't just, practice shikitaza, become it. And that's a lot of the stuff that spoke to me.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to that Yoda, doesn't it? It's do or do not. There is no try, and it's really just let it be. Let whatever you're doing, and instead of constructing some kind of story within it, or not paying attention to what's going on, just be there. Be the koan. I've looked in koan study a little, and it really is. They're not looking for an intellectual answer. You go in and you talk to your teacher, and most time than not, they just ring the bell. And the bell means you didn't get it, and you go on, and it's just like then you start letting go of all that stuff, and to be able to be the koan and express that, be able to honestly express yourself. And I think that's what they're really asking in koan practice. And that's really what life is asking us, is just to express ourselves honestly and without pretenses.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Well, Bruce should be back. I haven't heard from him, but he should be back next week. If not, we'll
Continue on.
trudge on. But so let's do the refuges. We take refuge in Buddha. We take refuge in Dharma. We take refuge in Sangha. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Udiyampe Bhutan Saranam Gacchami. Udiyampe Dhamman Saranam Gacchami. Udiyampe Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Hariyampe Bhutan Saranam Gacchami. Hariyampe Dhamman Saranam Gacchami. Hariyampe Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Thank you, everyone. Hope you have
Thank you.
Have a wonderful week.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.